When we speak of miracles, we often place them somewhere in the distant future or bury them in the past. We say, someday God will make a way, or back then He moved mightily. But this kind of thinking misunderstands the very nature of a miracle. It is not a random interruption in time, but rather a precise act woven into the grand design of eternity. What appears to us as delay, what feels like God being slow or distant, is actually part of a divine rhythm far above our limited understanding. From where we stand, miracles might seem late, even lost. But from the eternal perspective, they are never off schedule. Human beings are creatures of time. We mark our lives with seconds, hours, and years. We count our losses and wait anxiously for change according to the motion of the clock. But God does not wear a watch. He is not anxious about the future or haunted by the past. He lives in the eternal now, where all things are present before Him. So when we cry out, when we plead for healing, deliverance, or restoration, we often expect an immediate answer. And when none comes, we grow discouraged, wondering if we were heard at all. But the delay is not silence, and the silence is not denial. God's miracles are not random gifts tossed down from heaven. They are deliberate acts of grace, timed with perfect precision. Like a farmer who waits patiently for the season of harvest, God waits until the soil of our hearts is ready. If the harvest came too early, the fruit would not be ripe. If the rains fell too soon, the roots would not be deep. His timing is never to harm, but always to help us hold what He gives. The truth is, we are often less ready for the miracle than we believe. Our character is still being shaped. Our vision is still being clarified. And so the miracle is held in the hand of God, not denied, but protected. This does not mean God is passive or indifferent. On the contrary, it means He is intentional. The universe itself reflects this divine timing. The planets rotate in rhythm. The stars appear in appointed seasons. The oceans rise and fall with steady pulse. Why should it be any different with God's dealings in our lives? His miracles arrive not a moment too early or too late, but exactly when they are most needed. It is not delay, it is divine strategy. Consider the life of someone who longs for healing. They pray, they wait, and nothing changes. What they cannot see is the countless, unseen ways God is preparing them. Even through the waiting, the strength built in the silence, the compassion born out of suffering, the maturity shaped in the fire, all of these are miracles in disguise. The moment the healing comes, it will be part of a larger story, one written with wisdom and care. If it had come before the lessons were learned, before the soul was humbled, it might have been wasted. But when it comes in God's time, it transforms not only the body, but the heart. Even nature teaches us this. A tree planted in shallow soil will wither in harsh winds, but the one that grows slowly, putting down roots deep into the earth, will stand strong for decades. The miracle is not just in the fruit, it is in the process. So it is with us. What looks like a delay is often the deep work of rooting, anchoring, and strengthening. And just as spring cannot be rushed, neither can the miracle God intends for your life. To trust this truth is to surrender our urgency and embrace God's sovereignty. It is to believe that He knows better than we do when the door should open, when the chains should break, when the answer should arrive. It is to live with quiet expectation, not frustration. And in this kind of faith, there is peace. Because when you understand that miracles are not delayed, only perfectly timed, you stop striving and start resting. You begin to look at today not as an obstacle to your breakthrough, but as part of the path that leads to it. You see that every moment, whether silent or loud, dark or bright, is under God's care. He is not distant, He is not slow, He is precise. And the miracle you await is already in motion, moving toward you with the full weight of heaven behind it. Faith, though invisible to the eye, is the most powerful force that exists in the realm of the unseen. It is not mere hope, nor is it blind optimism. Faith is substance, a foundation laid upon the character of a God who does not lie. When a miracle is released from heaven, it does not land randomly upon the earth like scattered rain. It finds landing only where faith has prepared the ground. Just as a key fits only a particular lock, so too the miracle fits into a heart that has been shaped by trust. Without faith, the miracle may pass over 1,000 places, looking for one soul brave enough to believe the impossible. Miracles do not come to those who are strong in themselves, nor to those who depend only on the evidence of their senses. They are attracted to those who dare to believe in the goodness of God, even when circumstances scream otherwise. Faith is not simply saying, God can do it. It is living as though He will. It is behaving, praying, waiting, and praising in alignment with the certainty of what is not yet seen. The greatest miracles in history have always followed such a faith. Not one that waits for confirmation, but one that creates room for the miraculous by standing firm without any. The world teaches us to live by what we can measure. It teaches us to believe what we can touch, prove, and control. But faith mocks that logic. Faith walks into a valley with no sign of water and begins to dig trenches in expectation of rain. Faith stretches out a hand to the sick and declares healing, not because of magic, but because it trusts the power of the one who spoke the stars into being. Faith builds an ark with no sign of rain, leaves familiar lands without a map, and stands before locked doors with praise on its lips. It speaks when silence is deafening. It sings when sorrow is great. It dances before the battle is over. This is the kind of faith that opens the floodgates of heaven. When God sees faith, He sees agreement. He sees alignment. He sees the echo of His own heart reflected back in the frailty of human trust. Faith invites God's power, not because it forces His hand, but because it acknowledges His authority. It is the posture of the soul that says, I cannot, but you can. It is the child reaching up to the hand of a father, confident not in its own ability, but in the Father's nature, and that confidence draws God near. But this kind of faith is not born overnight. It grows in the soil of struggle. It matures in the tension between promise and fulfillment. Often, faith is forged in the waiting room, not the miracle itself. God sometimes delays not to punish, but to deepen. He allows space so that faith can stretch, strengthen, and rise above the noise of doubt. Faith does not need sight, it only needs trust. When faith grows beyond conditions and refuses to bow to appearances, it becomes the vessel through which miracles flow. There are many who pray, but few who believe. There are many who ask, but few who persist. Faith is not a one-time declaration. It is a posture maintained in the storm. It is what keeps a man standing when everything in him wants to collapse. It is what compels a woman to speak life over death, blessing over lack, victory over defeat. This is the faith that heaven honors. And it is not faith in faith itself. It is faith in a person, a God who does not change, a God whose promises are not uncertain guesses, but eternal truths. To have faith is to take Him at His word, even when every other voice calls you a fool. Faith listens not to the volume of the storm, but to the whisper of God's voice. If you desire a miracle, then build a place for it, not with bricks and mortar, but with faith. Clear out the doubt, remove the clutter of fear, and set your eyes on the one who is able. He does not respond to performance, but to trust. He is not impressed by eloquence, but moved by belief. Where faith is found, miracles will land. Where trust rises, heaven responds. And where the heart says yes to God without seeing, it will one day see what it dared to believe. God often works in a rhythm that defies the logic of man. His hand moves in hidden places, behind curtains we cannot draw back, among shadows where our eyes fail to follow. In seasons of waiting, it may seem that nothing is happening. Prayers feel unanswered, progress looks stagnant, and the silence grows heavy. But in this stillness, God is not idle. He is the master of subtle movements, the kind of movements that don't cause a stir at first, but when revealed, are undeniably miraculous. He works quietly, carefully, intentionally, and then, in a moment, it all breaks forth. There is a divine patience in the way God operates. He does not rush to prove anything. He does not need to announce what He is about to do. Like seeds buried deep beneath the earth, His answers grow in darkness before they bloom in light. When a miracle comes, it often feels sudden to us, but to Him it is the unfolding of a plan long in motion. We see the moment of breakthrough, but He sees every quiet preparation that led to it. What we call sudden is often the final step in a process that began long before we noticed. In the life of every believer, there is a time when nothing seems to change. The days blur together. The prayers feel redundant. You search for signs, for movement, for even the smallest shift in the atmosphere. But the silence lingers. And yet, in those very moments, something is happening. Not on the surface, where we tend to fix our gaze, but deep within. The kind of change that cannot be undone. God is rearranging what you cannot see, so that when the time comes, the visible will reflect the invisible. It is easy to trust God when things are moving. It is harder when you are standing still, surrounded by stillness, trapped in the waiting. Yet those who know Him best understand that stillness is not absence. In fact, it is in these moments that He does His deepest work. The heart is tested, the roots are deepened, and the spirit learns to depend not on the seen, but on the unseen. God's voice becomes clearer in the silence. His direction becomes sharper in the dark, and His miracles, when they finally arrive, shine all the brighter because they emerge from what once felt hopeless. This pattern can be seen throughout Scripture and history. God hides Moses for years before calling him from a burning bush. He allows Joseph to be forgotten in prison before lifting him to rule a nation. He permits Jesus to remain quiet for 30 years before revealing Him to the world in a single moment at the Jordan River. This is how heaven works. There is a hidden season, a quiet shaping, and then a release that changes everything in an instant. But while the moment of miracle feels like it happens all at once, the truth is that it has been forming the entire time. God was never unaware. He was never behind. He was simply building something too sacred to be rushed. And when it comes with the power and precision of divine timing. The door flies open. The healing takes place. The provision arrives. The way is made clear. And suddenly, what felt impossible yesterday becomes your testimony today. This suddenness is not chaotic. It is orchestrated. God is not surprised by your miracle. He authored it. He counted the days, arranged the details, and placed you exactly where you needed to be when the moment came. All that seemed quiet was really holy activity cloaked in mystery. He does not move randomly. He moves with purpose. And when he moves, everything changes. The shift may happen in a heartbeat, but the preparation has been long underway. We are not called to understand how or when, but simply to trust that he is working. In the silence, he is speaking. In the waiting, he is preparing. And when the appointed time comes, it will not be slow or gradual. It will break open like dawn, flooding the landscape of your life with light. What once seemed impossible will become undeniable. What once felt so far away will stand before you, fully formed and gloriously alive. There comes a moment in every life where strength fails. No amount of planning, experience, or determination can keep the walls from closing in. You pray, and the sky seems silent. You try, and the doors won't open. You hope, and the weight grows heavier. It is in these moments, when you are stripped of your own ability, that something begins to stir in the unseen. Because divine intervention does not compete with human strength. It waits for its exhaustion. As long as you believe you can do it on your own, God will let you try. But when desperation becomes your cry, when you reach the edge of what you can do, that's when the supernatural begins. Desperation has a strange way of making space for God. It removes pride, exposes illusion, and humbles the soul. It empties you, not to leave you broken, but to make room for the fullness of heaven. There is a kind of clarity that only comes through crisis. When everything comfortable is stripped away, the heart can finally see what truly matters. You stop leaning on systems, people, patterns. You start looking upward, not as a final resort, but as your only hope. And in that pure, unguarded posture, God moves. It's not that God needs us to suffer. He's not cruel. But he knows that desperation removes the clutter. It softens the heart, tunes the ears, opens the eyes. It transforms a distracted soul into one that is fully present before him. And when God finds a heart in that place, honest, humbled, surrendered, he responds not with pity, but with power. Heaven is drawn to the honest cry, not the polished performance. He does not seek the strong, but the sincere. And when your cry echoes from a place of surrender, angels are dispatched, doors begin to shift, and miracles are released. All throughout Scripture, the greatest miracles follow moments of absolute desperation. The woman with the issue of blood was not casually hoping for a change. She was desperate. She pressed through the crowd with nothing left to lose. Blind Bartimaeus cried out when others told him to stay quiet, because he could not imagine living one more day without sight. The paralyzed man's friends tore the roof off a house to lower him before Jesus, refusing to be stopped by obstacles. These were not polite requests. They were cries of the soul, and God honored every one of them. Desperation does something else. It exposes what you truly believe. It reveals whether your faith is built on conditions or covenant. When you're desperate, you no longer have the luxury of being half-hearted. You either collapse or you cling. And in that clinging, that reaching, there is faith stronger than any sermon or song. God does not despise desperation. He often meets people there most powerfully. Because when you finally understand that you are not enough, you also finally understand that He is. In our strength, we tend to negotiate with God. We bring our plans, our timelines, our ideas of how He should work. But in desperation, all of that falls away. You stop asking God to bless your strategy and start asking Him to simply show up. You stop trying to fix everything and start inviting Him into everything. And when you do that, when you truly let go, He does what only He can do. He brings peace into chaos, healing into pain, and light into darkness. He takes over where you gave up, not because you were abandoned, but because the moment was finally right for Him to step in. What makes desperation sacred is that it leads to revelation. When God meets you in your lowest place, you never see Him the same again. You no longer speak of Him as an idea. You know Him as a deliverer. You don't merely quote promises. You carry testimonies. The miracle becomes more than relief. It becomes an encounter. It deepens your trust. It marks your soul. It redefines your walk. And sometimes, what began as your breaking point becomes the doorway to your greatest breakthrough. So when you find yourself at the end of yourself, don't fear it. When there are no more answers, no more strength, and no more illusions, that's when you're nearest to a miracle. That is the place where heaven leans in, where the Spirit begins to stir, and where the impossible finally makes room for the divine. Your desperation has not disqualified you. It has positioned you. What looks like the end might just be the beginning of God showing Himself strong on your behalf. Miracles are often misunderstood as isolated events meant solely to solve immediate problems or alleviate suffering. While they certainly can provide healing, deliverance, or provision, they are rarely only about the situation at hand. When God performs a miracle, He is not simply giving relief. He is offering a deeper invitation. An invitation to know Him more intimately, to trust Him more fully, and to walk with Him more closely. The true purpose of a miracle is not just in what it changes around you, but in how it transforms within you. When Jesus turned water into wine at the wedding in Cana, it was not merely to save a family from embarrassment. It was a sign, a glimpse into who He truly was. The miracle opened the door to revelation. It was an invitation for the disciples and everyone present to recognize His divine nature. This is how miracles work. They shift more than circumstances. They shift understanding. They reveal the heart of God and call us closer. They are not just divine interventions. They are divine introductions. Every miracle tells a story, and every story God tells is designed to lead us back to Himself. When He heals the body, He also wants to heal the soul. When He provides in a time of lack, He is not only showing His power, He is reminding you of His character, that He sees, that He cares, and that He is near. Miracles carry a message far more significant than the surface result. They say, "Look beyond the gift, see the giver." Many people seek miracles for the result, not the relationship. They want the breakthrough, but not the one who breaks through. But God is not a vending machine for blessings. He is a Father longing for communion. When He moves in power, He is calling you into fellowship, into trust, into worship. He doesn't just want to fix what's broken. He wants to walk with you in wholeness afterward. This is why some people receive a miracle and remain unchanged, while others are marked forever. It depends on whether they accept the invitation embedded in the miracle. The miracle is never just about today. It is about what kind of person you become tomorrow. It is about the faith that grows, the intimacy that deepens, and the testimony that is born. God's works are layered. On the surface, they may bring immediate relief. Beneath, they carry eternal purpose. The feeding of the 5,000 was not just about food. It was about Jesus revealing himself as the bread of life. The calming of the storm was not just about safety. It was about teaching the disciples who commands the wind and the waves. He met their needs, yes, but more than that, he revealed his identity. And that is what God still does through every miracle today. When God releases a miracle in your life, he is opening a door. And like all doors, it leads somewhere. You can stand at the threshold and admire the gift, or you can step through and discover more of him. The miracle is not the destination, it is the invitation. The deeper blessing is not what God does for you, but what he does in you. The way your eyes open, the way your heart softens, the way your spirit awakens. These are the true gifts hidden within the miracle. Think of the leper who returned to thank Jesus after being healed. 10 were cleansed, but only 1 came back. And to that one, Jesus said something different. Your faith has made you whole. Not just healed, but whole. Because he responded to the miracle with relationship. He understood that the healing was not the end of the story. It was the beginning of something greater. This is the response that transforms a miracle from a momentary relief into a lifelong testimony. God is always calling us deeper. He does not perform miracles to impress, but to invite, to bring us closer, to awaken our love, our awe, our obedience. And every time he moves, he is asking, will you come closer? He's not just opening blind eyes or providing in the wilderness. He's calling us to see him more clearly, to trust him in the unknown, and to follow him into places we never imagined. Miracles are not the conclusion. They are the opening line to a much greater story, one where God himself becomes not just a helper, but your everything. There is a weight in the word no that is easily missed in a world obsessed with the future. We are often taught to wait, to plan, to prepare for a time that seems always out of reach. But when God speaks of now, he does not speak from the same perspective as man. His no is not reactive or hesitant. It is decisive, purposeful, and sacred. It is not just a point on the clock. It is a divine intersection, a moment thick with potential, soaked in eternity. When God says that your miracle is being released, now, he is not responding to your desperation alone. He is activating a plan already long in motion. God exists outside of time, but he chooses to work within it to reach us. He is never in a hurry, but he is never late. When he moves in your present, it is not because he suddenly noticed your situation, but because the time has come for what he has already seen to be made manifest. The present is not empty. It is the space where his promises are planted and fulfilled. It's where prophecy collides with reality. We often fear the present because it feels uncertain, but in the eyes of God, it is the place of divine visitation. What feels fragile to us is full of His strength. What feels like limbo to us is His launch pad for the miraculous. The mistake many people make is to live always looking ahead or behind, chained to what was or clinging to what might be. But miracles do not happen in yesterday, and they are not postponed until tomorrow. They happen in the now. This is where God meets His people. The Israelites didn't walk through the Red Sea days before or after it opened. They walked through when it split before their eyes. Peter didn't walk on water when he was thinking about it later. He stepped out of the boat in the moment of God's call. These miracles were not created by perfect timing on man's part. They were the result of responding to God's perfect timing in the present. There is a sacred urgency in the present moment. God often does not announce His moves ahead of time. He comes like a whisper, a nudge, a sudden breath of wind. And those who are sensitive to His Spirit, who are awake and attentive, recognize that now is holy, not next week, not once conditions improve, not after the fear subsides. Now, He calls, and He expects a response not tomorrow, but today. Because your readiness doesn't have to be perfect. Your willingness is what He's looking for. This is why spiritual sensitivity matters so deeply. Not to predict what is coming far down the road, but to discern when God is moving in the present. It takes faith to believe that now is enough, that you don't need more evidence or more clarity. You only need to believe that He is working in this exact moment. Right here, in the silence and confusion, in the stillness and waiting. This awareness transforms ordinary time into sacred ground. You begin to walk differently, speak differently, pray differently. Because you understand that heaven is not delayed, it is already leaning toward you. The enemy will do everything to pull you away from the now. He will keep you trapped in regret or paralyzed by fear of the future. But he cannot touch the present unless you surrender it. Your power is not in what you've lost or what you fear. You are strongest in your awareness of God's presence now. That is where authority flows. That is where miracles are released. That is where chains break, not later, but in the moment of revelation. When God says, now, it is not a suggestion, it is an announcement. A declaration that the atmosphere has shifted, that the spiritual has pressed into the natural. That what was promised is no longer a theory, but a reality unfolding. Your response to that moment determines what comes next. Will you step into it? Will you speak as if it's true? Will you trust that the unseen is already working on your behalf? This moment may feel ordinary, but heaven has its eyes on it. The miracle you've been waiting for isn't waiting for the right conditions. It's waiting for your recognition. Because when God says, now, He is not hoping for your agreement. He is offering partnership, to see what He sees, to move when He moves, to receive what He's already prepared, not in some distant place, not in some future you can't reach, but here now, in the sacred space of today. You've walked through seasons of waiting, endured silence that felt endless, and stood at the edge of giving up. But all along, God was moving. Not on your schedule, but on His. Every delay was divine preparation. Every quiet moment was filled with purpose. And now, the heavens are declaring something powerful. Your miracle is being released. Not as a coincidence. Not as a reward for effort. But as a divine response to your faith, your surrender, your readiness. This miracle is not just about solving a problem. It's about revealing the heart of God. It's about inviting you into deeper relationship, stirring a faith that won't fade with time. It's not random, it's targeted. It bears your name, and it arrives not when you feel strong, but when you've reached the end of yourself, when you're finally ready to receive not just a gift, but the giver. So lift your eyes. Don't wait for the perfect moment. This is the moment. Don't hold back your belief. This is the time to lean in, because God is not speaking in future tense. He is declaring in the eternal present. And now, the shift has begun. The door is opening. The miracle is here. And it's not just changing your situation, it's changing you. What if I told you that the breakthrough you've been praying for, the miracle you've been waiting on, isn't far off in the future, but is unfolding right now? Not tomorrow, not next season. Rest now. While you're sitting in silence, wondering if heaven still hears you, God is already moving. The shift isn't coming. It's here. Are you ready to see it?